like basketball. I like, but I'm not good at. Yes, I'm not.
Me too.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the State of the League podcast, the only NBA podcast breaking down, I guess, whether or not the Chicago Bulls will be able to be worse than the Charlotte Hornets this year. The fate of the bottom third of the Eastern Conference. I'm your host, Jack, aka Jokic Joe Star. With me, as always, the world famous Pablo Escobar. And we are very happy to be joined today by, we've been referring to you as like our first real person on the pod. Shout out to Kofi and Sponhauer and all the other, like, I don't know, famous in our like internet circle people that we've had on who we obviously love. But Kenny, the king of the fourth quarter, the first real famous person we've had on. Kenny, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the intro. I wouldn't go as far as famous, but I'm happy to be here. You got me in by saying Bulls, and I know you needed somebody to talk trash about Chicago, so I'm here for it.
Yeah, Pablo's usually pretty good about that, but I'm excited because this like I'm just gonna take a back seat and let you guys just bounce off each other. I'm sure there's a lot of pent up frustration that this will be a good outlet for.
Were you a Bulls fan?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, so we're here. We're locked in. Got it.
We're locked in hell together.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, yeah. So I'm happy to facilitate maybe some cathartic conversations about this stuff. I sent you. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. Just a list of standard regulation questions we're asking everybody who comes on doing season previews about stuff. The first of those, obviously, is just, how do you feel about where the Bulls currently sit as a franchise?
I've seen 2 good seasons in my lifetime. And I can't say that we're going to get good seasons anytime soon. Let's say 2.5. Because that, even though we all knew that there was a real ceiling to that Lonzo Ball led whatever team, that was like the most fun I had since Derrick Rose was the MVP of the league. I just watch these press conferences with the people that are in charge, and I understand you can't be completely candid, you can't be completely honest with your fan base under any circumstances. But when they're asked about the top 10 protected pick of this year, and they say, we're trying to host a playoff series. You want to host like when I hear host, I'm thinking top 4 seed. Is that where your head is at with this roster? So it's not great. But I will say I have to like hype myself up every season to be excited about something. And there are a few things that I'm interested in. So it's pretty low. It's pretty low. I'm not really excited, but they're just small little pieces here or there that get me like, okay, like tomorrow's the first preseason game. All right, Josh Giddey, Bulls jersey. Let's see what that looks like. I guess.
Yeah, we're here now. That's the point that you're in. So yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. It's nice. The Bulls, to me, over the past, like really since like the DeMar trade, I guess, like when they traded for him from San Antonio, have kind of been like the definitive, just like fighting for the play-in team. It's never really felt like they had that flash with Lonzo. I agree, electrifying basketball. Oh my god! But it's never really felt like they were a serious playoff team, and it's also never really felt like they were complete garbage that like exists in the Washingtons, Detroits, the Brooklyn Nets of the world. And so I think this season is the first time I can look at them and definitely say, okay, they moved DeMar, they moved Caruso, tried to move LaVine. I'm sure we'll get into like the reality of what that situation looks like further into the pod. They're trying to take a direction with this team. At least that's what I thought before media day. Because I agree with you. When he says stuff like, I want to be competitive, I want to host a playoff series, like the stuff that all of the GMs say on media day before they win 25 games or whatever, I believe him. I believe that he is like going to do everything in his power to make this team the 9 seed or whatever. Even if that's at like the cost of a full-on era of spectacular Chicago basketball. So, Pablo, what do you think?
Yeah, it's tough because this is supposed to be a point of optimism because we're out of like the worst days where like the Vucevic trade set the course. It set us on a course that we could not deviate from for a few years, whereas like you kind of have to go all in, otherwise you're just an idiot. We finally got over that. We're finally at the end of the DeMar like win now era. Like you traded your best player, you shouldn't be trying to win anymore. But yeah, there's no reason to think like, oh, they can take it from here. They can start cooking. Like even if we got Cooper Flag, like even if we bottomed out and got Cooper Flag, there's no level of confidence for the people leading to get the rest of the team. So it's horrible, and there's no sign that they're going to be fired. So it's better than it has been the past few years, but it could very easily go back to what it's been.
How stupid are we? When that Vucevic trade happened, I was like, "Oh my goodness, we have an all-star in Chicago again!" And I mean, I'm even in the moment, like if you go watch the video, I'm like, he's shooting a career high from three. He's not this great of a three-point shooter. I understand we're buying extremely high, but man, the Bulls did something. The Garpax era was over, and here's this dude that gets credited for being one of the reasons Jokic got drafted. He's here now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, he's gonna do great things. And it's just been bad trade after bad trade to. And here we are when we have to be like, well, Josh Giddey's only 22 years old.
Oh
You
god.
know, he got played off the playoff court, but he just needed a spot to be himself. And I'm like, when has anybody ever come to Chicago and blossomed? Like this is a place where careers come to die. Like it just doesn't happen here.
Oh, but Kenny, Jabari Parker, he just needs a shot. Oh, Dwayne Wade, he still got it. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it'll happen here, I swear.
Jabari Parker went to a post-game conference and was like, they don't pay me to play defense.
Oh my god.
He's
making
I'm
$20
literally Kevin Durant, guys. Don't ask me about defense. I'm Kevin Durant who hasn't gotten a shot yet.
Oh man, what a great time that was, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look fondly on some of those really, really bad, stupid decisions. Like when Dwayne Wade was here, it was so bad. I remember in real time I hated it, but now I look back on it like that was kind of cool. Like Dwayne Wade's one of my favorite players of all time, so that's probably the reason why. And it didn't last long. It was just like the space. Oh my god, Rondo, Wade, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
He's turning
Golly.
Jimmy against us. He's turning him Hollywood.
But you ask like some diehard Bulls fans are like, man, if Rondo don't get injured, we beat that Boston Celtics team.
Rondo.
Playoff Rondo's different, man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with the Giddey trade, one thing that like has really stuck out to me because I was combing through like Bulls Twitter, just looking for like the pure cope angles that like fans are kind of taking to be like,
go to the Bulls subreddit.
Yeah.
That it was built. That's everyone there.
And one thing that like keeps rising to the top is just like he's a great rebounding guard, dude. Oh my god, he's dominant on the boards for a point guard. And I'm just like, if that's like the third redeeming factor out of your mouth for this guy that you like, Caruso was probably your best like asset. I know DeMar's a better player, but like just kind of a clear player that everyone would want. Caruso maybe ranks a little higher. Just giving that up for a guy who's like really good on the boards as a point guard, that's horrifying. It was crazy when it happened. It's crazy to me every time I think about it now. And it's hard not to see a season where that kind of like looms over this team a little bit. Because like he's also contract extension eligible soon. And so you figure they'll be like trying to see what they got. He will be getting a ton of possessions and everything. And I'm a little nervous for that.
Yeah, you're not a fan of 7 point guards on the same roster?
Dude, I was shocked when I combed through like just like going into this next year. I was like, dude, what is the front court rotation like? Like, I know they got Jalen Smith, but this is insane that like Javon Carter's like the 6th name down the list. I'm like, I don't understand what it's going to look like. I also struggle to understand how, like, when we talk about being nervous that the team might overachieve in a year with a really talented draft class, when I look at the personnel, I'm like, this has to be a bad team. Like, there's no way that this, like, they figure this out and they win 37 games or whatever it's going to take. But just the track record that the Bulls have had at, like, achieving those kinds of feats, it makes me not want to bet against them a little bit.
Yeah. But the good thing is there's a reason to bet against them. We were the second best clutch team in basketball last season.
God.
Like Kobe White had the best clutch plus minus in all of basketball. And a lot of that is DeMar DeRozan just turning into Superman for an entire quarter multiple times a year. He's gone. We don't have Superman. Unless you send Zach LaVine as that guy. I personally have seen him in the clutch a lot in his career. Don't really trust him to turn into DeMar DeRozan. So there are teams towards the bottom that I have more stock in as far as achieving expectations. Like, I really do think the Hornets might be okay this year, honestly. I'm praying that they're better than the Bulls at least, so we can keep that pick.
I have a little thing here. I called it the tanking ranking. It's like the reverse of a power ranking, where
What a good run.
it's like tiers of teams. Do we think the Bulls are going to be worse than them? And so right off the bat, I wrote down the Wizards and the Nets. Do we think the Bulls can be worse than them next season?
No, they can't be worse than them. I watched that preseason game with the Wizards the other night, and I'm like, whoa. Is there any NBA talent on this roster? Now, Kuzma was there, Valanciunas was there, but I'm like, and my eyes were like, man, this is like watching the New Zealand Breakers play in the NBA right now. So I'm gonna say they win so little games this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. And you got to think like Kuzma's got to be traded this year, right? Like this got to be the year. So they're only going to get worse. So unless
Right.
Alex Sarr is like, I tricked you all, I'm game changing, I'm Anthony Davis, then yeah, it would be incredibly difficult to be worse than them.
Yeah. Okay, you guys don't believe in the Bilal Coulibaly pull up mid range. It was getting a lot of love in that game, from what I saw.
Oh, what if he's still growing still? Oh my God.
We get to change.
I also remember watching that play live, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I looked back at the scoreboard; it was like 32-12. It was like, oh, okay,
Yeah, and it's the Toronto Raptors who are like in like the next tier of teams. So it's just like, yeah, this is
right.
a Grand Canyon. The Wizards, no, Nets, no. I said this next one. All right. Do we think they can be worse than the Pistons next year?
I think they can be worse than the Pistons, but I probably wouldn't put money on it.
Agreed.
Like the Pistons made some real adjustments, new coaching. I honestly, Monty Williams might be have the worst single season coach in the history of basketball last year. So anything will be better than that. And they shot a lot of threes last night. So I'm hoping that's their new identity.
Yeah.
Jaden Ivey was looking like a monster. If Jaden Ivey plays, if he plays 82 games of last night, then they're good. But yeah, they're a team that like it's been going on for too long. They've been losing for too long. They got to get on track. And so, and they have like guys who we think are supposed to be good, like Cade, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, all these guys. So a lot of the separation between the Bulls and these other teams is like they have no real players. Like we have real players. They're just hurt or something, or like Zach LaVine. But yeah, the Pistons, there's a chance they could be better. I hope they're better. I think for everyone's sake, it would be better if they were better than us.
Yeah.
Oh man. The Blazers next year. Who we think could the Bulls be worse than them?
My buddies told me I was crazy for saying I kind of like the Blazers roster, and then Shaedon Sharpe tore his labrum like an hour later. So I'm back to no. I'm back to no. Portland doesn't have it. I was saying like if Portland somehow the whole city of Portland it was in Maine. It was Portland, Maine, right? And now they're an Eastern Conference team.
Then they're getting Cooper Flag for sure.
But also I think that they could run, bro. They could win 30 games in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, no.
But in the West, it's just tougher.
I'm the exact same way. Because, like, yeah, I think, I mean, running down, especially if Sharpe was healthy, it's a talented team. And it's like if Klingon fits and you get like a Scoot Henderson step forward in the same offseason, that's something that in the East, yeah, I see the recipe there. But just playing against that Western Conference every night, I've said it all offseason. Somebody's got to be bad. Just because they have like good role players doesn't make them like competent. So yeah, I don't think the Bulls will be worse than them. What about the Spurs?
The Spurs ceiling is a lot higher than the Bulls.
Yeah,
a lot higher. I would say the Spurs probably have a better record than the Bulls this season. I'm pretty confident in that.
Okay, Pablo, what do you think?
I could buy it just because the GOAT is on the team, and so we don't know what the GOAT Victor Wembanyama. The history is written by the Victors. Kenny, what his first name is? It's Victor. So yeah, who knows what he's going to put together for year 2? Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player. No, Special Teams Player of the Year is Josh Giddey. Come on.
Him or Corey Taylor, one of the two.
Yeah. So But yeah, I think the Spurs have a good chance outside of Chris Paul. Who have they added outside of Chris Paul and just Wemby growth?
Well,
Harrison Barnes.
yeah.
Oh,
Shout out Harrison
Yeah.
Barnes. Like literally one of my least favorite role players in the league last year, but in terms of the guys they were throwing out last season, it's probably a step in the right direction. They drafted Castle. You're
Mhm.
hoping for like Vassell step forward, Sohan step forward. And I think yeah, like once they got like Trey Jones just running normal shit with Wemby last year, it was like, okay, yeah, this is like one of like the 18 best players in the world right now, much less like an off season of work and everything. So I agree. The ceiling, I'm on board with what the Spurs do, but this is one where it kind of boils down to like the effort of both teams in the back half of the season, where you see like really bad teams just like go on tears of being awful.
Mhm.
I think if the Bulls are like looking, they're like 2 games out of the 10 seed, and Karnisovas really wants it, then that's where you might see them overtake the Spurs in a standing like this. But alternatively, I think Wemby, like how he looked when he lost the Olympics this year, it seems like he hates to lose so much that like if anybody in the
Mhm.
organization, like he's so good that even if they came to him and they're like, dude, a pick would be way better for your career, he's like, no, I'm going to drop like I don't know 30 10 5 and 7 on great efficiency and win the game tonight. So I think the
Yeah.
Spurs are right there. And then you brought them up, the Hornets. How do you feel?
Give me Hornets over Bulls.
Yeah.
Mostly because I watched a 10-minute documentary they put together this offseason, and it made me buy into the new front office, to the new coaching. And LaMelo Ball is really good at basketball. He just doesn't he has glass ankles like Steph Curry did early in his career. So if he's healthy and Mark Williams eventually is healthy finally in his career, I think they could be better than the Bulls. The question is, will they want to? Because I think their pick is top 10 protected as well, just like the Bulls. So them making the playoffs means they also miss out on this year's draft.
Damn. That's tough. That's a tough decision for such a deep draft. Pablo, what do you think?
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the Hornets. I wouldn't bet on just I think Lamelo's probably the best player on either team, but like one injury away, and then I don't know what that team is doing. And then we recently uncovered on here the new Hornets owner who's in charge is the GameStop guy. So I don't know, he might be scamming. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
he was shorting GameStop, then he got punished.
Wow. See, this is why you don't watch documentaries that are produced by the people that it's talking about.
Oh man,
He was such a great guy in the documentary.
did you ever
Jeez.
watch State of Nate?
What is
No.
That was the Nate Robinson documentary. Oh my god! If you watch that, you'll think he's the greatest player of all time.
All right, I'm putting it in my notes right now.
that rocks. Damn. Yeah. I could see a documentary angle that's just like Nate Robinson, he's overcoming it at every level. He's got all the odds are stacked against him and he's dominating. Dunk contest champion, Nate Robinson? Come on,
Yeah.
Oh,
dude.
they had a slow motion mix of him training at Venice Beach basketball courts, and they were playing the Watch the Throne song, where it's like, "I need a slow motion video." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, he's coming back!" But yeah, then you know what's crazy is the guy who it was a YouTube documentary, and the guy who made it after Nate Robinson's career ended, he went on to Isaiah Thomas, and so he was cornering the market
Damn.
on 5'9" point guard documentaries. Everyone needs a niche.
Yeah. DJ Augustine, look out, man. You're next.
crap.
Shit. Oh man. All right, the last team that like I could see if it was just nightmare season for them. Could the Atlanta Hawks be worse than the Chicago Bulls if like everything went wrong?
I'm kind of like anti-Hawk this season. The last 2 years, I convinced myself that they were going to be great. Obviously, they were playing team both years. So I'm just going to say I'm anti-Hawk on all accounts until they show me otherwise.
Okay.
I put too much stock in them to let. Like I made multiple videos like last year. It's the time. They had a full offseason together. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. It's time for them to work out.
You put your
I even-
reputation on the line for them.
Exactly. And still Hawks fans hate me because now I'm saying I've changed my mind. After 2 years of riding with them, and now they're like, nah, we throw him to the side. And I even thought that Jalen Johnson was going to take his jump. I was right there, and it still didn't matter. So I'm saying I'm anti-Hawks. So Bulls. Give me Bulls over Hawks this season.
Okay. All right. Hey, way to stand on business. Now that's a statement, Bulls or Hawks fans. It's okay to hate Kenny for that, but everything up to this
For
point,
that one.
you guys are way off base. That was fucked up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm the same way where it's just like we're huge Trae Young guys on here. Just like transcendent offensive player,
Mhm.
and for whatever
And
reason,
we're huge Veet Krejci guys too.
oh,
I like Vic Krejci. I like
it'd
that
be
too.
it'd be
Okay.
a Veet Krejci if you didn't, man. I think, yeah, like, oh, I don't know. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. The DeJounte fit was really clunky and bad, and it took touches away from guys who probably raised the ceiling a little bit. Like I'm on board with the Jalen Johnson leap for real this season. Like
Mhm.
for real. Like typical in the conversation for all-star forward type guy. But I mean, if it doesn't happen, I won't be surprised. I've been
But well, if I'm being about, they have objectively have a better roster than the Bulls. They have the best player in of the two. I'm just kind of out of it, but like they have a better roster, I would
yeah.
say, for sure.
Yeah. Let's just hop right into
Okay.
Question two. So how do we feel about the Chicago Bulls off-season moves? One of the bigger ones in the Caruso Giddy exchange. How do you feel about everything?
I I've gone through every stage of grief, I think. Like when the trade first happened, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? As you mentioned earlier, Alex Caruso was by far our best asset on the team. Like Zach LaVine is virtually untradeable. You saw the DeMar DeRozan trade; they got us 2 second-round picks and Chris Duarte. Like it was really Alex Caruso, and I'm just watching these other teams make trades, and they get at least like even if it was for the optics, I wanted a first-round pick in that
Yes.
trade. Even if it was like the one first-round pick that was just in the cat trade. That pick may never convey. It's heavily protected till 2027. That may never convey. But like their fans is like, listen, we got an extra first round pick for it. Knowing that it might turn into 2 seconds in 2028, but like it's optically, I needed that. And then I went down this big rabbit hole. Like, do y'all remember before last season, Josh Giddey was widely considered one of the 25 under 25? So this one bad season made him just ass. No, right? No way. And this is a spot where he can come and he's got shooters. Let him be him. Oh man, it should be great. But I'm back to like stage one, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I kind of miss Alex Caruso, and he hasn't even played a game for OKC yet. We just don't get that caliber of player that cares as much as Alex Caruso did on teams. And if you're gonna trade that away, I just wanted you to get a little bit more. And I'm a firm believer that Giddey probably is going to average like 17, 9, and 7 this year. Like his stats are going to be insane on this roster. But I don't know if that necessarily translates to us being really good in 2 to 3 years. And then with those stat lines, he's going to get a super crazy contract this year. It's just, I didn't like it. I didn't like the offseason. Only thing I do like is that it pushed us in a direction.
Yeah.
That's the only positive about it all.
You're a smart man. That was like 3 weeks of like conversation after the trade condensed into like 30 seconds. Cause yeah. Pablo, what do you think about it?
The Josh Giddey trade is one of the worst things to ever happen to me. I've had an incredibly easy life. And so this is up there. This is like top 5. I literally remember where I was. I was in a fast food drive-through. I had to pull over and sit in the rain just to think. I was waiting for the update that we got picks. We did not get any picks. It's like these guys have so many picks. They literally can't keep them all on the roster. They have to give up picks, and we didn't give up picks. And the worst part is, I think our Arturas Karnisovas left that trade deal, and he's like, I cooked. We didn't even have to give OKC any picks for Josh Giddey. We cooked. I am off court issues aside. Josh Giddey is. I think they should have had like his value was at an all-time low. So I wrote down all my thoughts in my notes to organize. So this is what Josh Giddey can do. Josh Giddey can pass from a standstill. Josh Giddey can pass in transition. Josh Giddey can pass to teammates who create their own advantages, and he can rebound. That is it. Josh Giddey can't shoot. He's made 214 3-pointers in his entire career. 176 of them came with a defender not within 6 feet of him. So teams intentionally leaving this guy open because they're like, we do not care. This guy is not going to punish us. So even if he does start making them, then he's got to adjust. Oh man, I only have 5 feet of space. I only have 4 feet of space. It's like going from college football pockets to NFL pockets. On plays where a defender is within 6 feet, he shot 19% from 3 last year. And then on top of it all, he's leaving OKC, where their shooting coach is Chip England, who's like considered the best shooting coach in the world. And he's coming to the Bulls, where I think we didn't hire a single shooting coach until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Now we have a shooting coach, but I think he's not even. Is he just the player development coach? Like, I don't know if we have a dedicated shooting coach. Do we, Kenny?
I'm not completely sure, but I do remember the report that was like the Bulls have a shooting coach. I'm like, are they 30th in the league in that? Are they dead last? Like, were we the latest team to get a shooting coach? And so I didn't even.
Reinsdorf doesn't
about
believe
it.
in analytics, so I'm sure he doesn't believe in skill coaching. He believes in general coaching. Like, but so Josh Giddey as a finisher, his career percentile as a finisher in 3 years is 26th, 32nd, 27th. He shot 58%, 58%, 56% within 5 feet at the hoop the last 3 years. So that's not very good. And I couldn't find a split for transition versus half court finishing, but I would imagine the vast majority of his finishes do come in transition. But yeah, he's just a funky athlete. He's tall and he's very fast, but he's not necessarily like, he doesn't create a ton of separation. He doesn't jump super high. He doesn't have a great wingspan. So there's not too many physical tools to fall back on for him unless he like puts on weight and gets huge or something. But this is a guy, so he can't shoot threes, can't really finish. The mid range is actually decent. It's actually okay. It's like the percentages are okay. But then the defense, everyone knows the defense is horrible. Like, this is a guy who teams will target and attack on the other end. And so so at the end of the day, we have a guy who can't shoot, can't finish, needs the ball in his hands to be effective for anything, will be targeted on the defensive end. People think like, well, he can pass, he could just get it to the other guys, but it's not like 2000. Like, you need to threaten defenses yourself, otherwise they're just going to leave you. And like, even it seems like when the Mavericks left him open from 3, you would think like, even with that space, he could drive in and create havoc that way and pass off attacking closeouts and stuff like that. But he wasn't even able to do that. Like, his passing is not really functional. He's just like a sideline out of bounds passer. He's great in transition, but in the half court, when teams like really lock up, I don't think it will really come in that handy, just because like, who is he passing to if no one's getting open? Like, he would have to rely on like a Vucevic screen to create space, but Vucevic can't shoot anymore either. So like, a pick and pop screen's not going to work out. And then like, yeah, Zach LaVine, we've been waiting for the Zach LaVine off-ball renaissance forever. It's just overall like, I'm not into Josh Giddey. Like, the only points in his favor, people say like, oh, he's young. You know who also? Billie Eilish is the same age as him. Is Billie Eilish going to become an NBA superstar too? This is the worst. Like, it's not worse than the Vucevic trade because we can get out of it after this year. But like you said, I think the same exact thing is going to happen. I think he will put up volume numbers, like inefficient, non-winning volume numbers, like 17, 7, and 7, and they'll be like, yes, give him $36 million a year, and then we're screwed. But I'm just hoping like it doesn't get to that, but it probably will, just considering how things go for the Bulls.
Funny thing is, he's going from the worst defender on OKC to maybe our 4th best defender now. Think about that. He probably won't get targeted a lot because we also play with Zach LaVine on the court and Kobe White on the court. So it's like,
and Lonzo has a new knee. We'll see how that goes.
Brand new knee.
Lonzo's like, my left side's bad at defense now, guys. Don't go that way. Yeah, damn, Pablo, tell us how you really feel. That was beautiful. You know he cares because he never comes with percentile stats like that. It's always vibes based until something really hits home.
Until you got to hate on someone, then you got to bring out the percentiles.
Yeah, I'll say, as someone completely removed from the Bulls, like emotionally, wasn't thinking about him up until this point, except for like, where is Alex Caruso going to end up? Because he is like this very tantalizing, impactful player. yeah, this was crazy. I thought the Bulls got fleeced when it happened. I continue to think that. I'm very on board with the vision that you guys see of him getting paid next year based off of like if he's like 56% true shooting next year, I'd be surprised. Like that I think the efficiency shit is going to be really really difficult for him. Um and yeah, I just think that's like very in line with everything the Bulls have done over the past 5 6 years or whatever. I will say, looking at this from somebody who has to like worry about Oklahoma City now as like a Nuggets fan, giving this team like taking this guy off this team who, again, off court stuff aside, emotionally on the floor, really neutral player. Like never somebody that was making plays that really got people fired up. Sometimes like he would create moments like that for like Chet through a lob or whatever. Like he yeah, just not really that impactful of a guy and a net negative in the biggest moments of the season. Just like really bad. Taking that guy and replacing him with, I like the point you made, Kenny, someone who cares so much, who tries so hard all the time. And for a team that is very young, just got some playoff experience, but relatively still inexperienced, to add this guy who has won a championship and is constantly like running through fucking brick walls to make plays for everybody. And is a 40% 3-point shooter. That's a great connective passer and probably like a top 3 defensive guard in basketball. Adding that onto a team that just won 57 games in place of their worst player is crazy. I don't know how they allowed that to happen. But yeah, Sam Presti, shout out to the fucking Bulls, man. OKC should love every Bulls fan that they come into contact with.
17 first round picks just sitting in the pocket. Didn't have to give
We
up
don't need
one.
it. We don't need
That's-
it.
And you know what's funny about it? The press conference, the Josh Giddey's first press conference, Artunis Karnisovas is there as well. And he was asked about the deal. And he said, I thought it was a fair deal. I think we both walked out really excited about it. I'm like, bro, oh my God, what do you mean? Like that makes me feel like Sam Presti picked up the phone and said, you want Giddey for Caruso? He said, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. No negotiations needed. Nothing. Not a couple of seconds. Not Usman Jang, not the dude that can't play over there because he's the 12th man in the rotate. Just give us Josh Giddey, and we're extremely happy about it because we need to replace Lonzo's passing.
Yeah. Pablo, I'm curious because you said this is not worse than the Vucevic trade. If they give him the money, does it become worse?
Maybe. I don't know. Because the problem, so the Vucevic trade, it was so bad because number one, the idea, it's like, we need to get a sidekick for Zach LaVine. But the whole time we're like, Zach LaVine is ideally the sidekick. Like, this is not a number one championship guy. Why are we investing in the guy who's not a clear number one? So that was one issue. Then it was the picks. Like, we actively had no picks over the course of those seasons, so there was no incentive to lose at all. And then there was like the natural, like, Vucevic was coming off his best year ever. What are the odds he's going to decline? That was a whole thing. Josh Giddey, I think even if we do pay him that money, maybe it won't be as bad just by virtue of like it's a signing and it doesn't take 2 first-round picks. But I mean, it's entirely possible that it becomes worse. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the NBA is shifting now to like untradeable contracts being a real thing. Like I've never thought, like everybody used to say there's a such, it didn't exist until the second apron. We're like, now a dude making that much money and not being productive, we're going to give up 17% of our cap, 25% of our cap for that guy. Only people that'll fall for that are the Phoenix Suns. Like,
and the Bulls.
And damn it. Yeah. I think the Vucevic trade will always be worse because Franz Wagner is such a good basketball player.
Yeah.
And it's like, luckily Jet Howard hasn't done anything. But if Jet Howard becomes good, I might jump off a roof, man. I can't have both of those picks end up being good basketball players.
Wendell Carter Jr. was better the day that you traded him. Like, I don't know if that's true.
Man.
Peak Vooch, oh man, he was spectacular.
Peak Vooch.
Wendell had one bad half of a season, and people were like, "This is a disaster. Get him out." He had bad rebounding box scores, and they were like, "He's too small."
Yeah,
man.
And he wanted to play the 4. And they were like, we traded him away so he could go to a play. He's never played the 4 in his life. He's in Orlando playing small ball 5 as we speak right now. Like, that's happening. And now he can shoot the 3-pointer. He's a
Yeah.
37% 3-point shooter now. I'm like, he's exactly what Vucevic was supposed to be, just shorter.
Bulls are like, well,
And
Vooch
now
can pass.
Vucevic is
Vooch can facilitate a little bit.
wait, Wendell can
Yes,
too.
he can. And he doesn't ask for a post touch every third possession. Like it's
Oh, brother.
And Vucevic is like statistically the worst wide open shooter in the NBA. Like
Yeah.
all the graphs, it's like they're leaving him wide open. He's not making them.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Yeah. So did they what else even happened this offseason with Chicago? Because obviously getting moved defines the offseason. I guess we could talk about like the lack of LaVine movement, because when you talk about untradeable contracts, that's probably like the guy who comes to mind. It's Beal, but Beal I think is solidly stuck in Phoenix until that resolves itself. It seemed like they were trying to move LaVine and he was open to being moved, and similar to like Ingram, you're seeing it in a couple different spots. No market materializes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
From my understanding, the deal was placed almost at the finish line for him to go to Detroit during last season. And then he got injured or opted to have surgery. Whatever happened first.
I'm not going to Detroit. Get me on the table now.
No, seriously.
The Rob Gronkowski.
And now it's like there's no team where I can realistically try to draw up a trade that makes sense for them to take Zach LaVine. Like I can go to the trade finder and make something up, but it won't be realistic for that team. The only ones that it didn't make sense, but it's like, ooh, that's kind of what they do, was the Lakers. And now it feels like they're going to a whole new regime and a new idea. I'm watching their preseason games and they're fun. I don't think they're going to trade a 3-for-1 for Zach LaVine at this point. So I think he's really here to stay. Like even the bad contracts across basketball, like the Nets are trying to lose. They're not going to acquire Zach LaVine for Ben Simmons. It's not going to happen. So ready to put my number 8 jersey on this year because he's here. He's here to stay.
Yeah. Pablo, any thoughts at all?
Yeah, the Pistons was the dream just because they had Monty Williams, and it was like, oh, we could talk those guys into him being like, well, we just need someone who could do anything to win some games, and maybe we could steal Jaden Ivey. He hates Jaden Ivey, but now that dream is over. So yeah, Zach is on this team. But one of the bigger offseason things is the Patrick Williams extension. Did you like it, Kenny?
And when I first saw it, I was excited about it. Then I watched the people around him get paid, and I'm like, Isaac Okoro signed for $36 million, and we signed Patrick Williams for 90. I'm like, whoa! Like Patrick Williams is a better player. I would say that concrete. He's a better player, but not $40 million better. Like I love Patrick Williams. I think that the Bulls have this way of drafting people that are very okay with being the fourth option. And now that's why I'm happy for Modest Buzelis, because it seems like he wants to kill everything that he sees. But Patrick Williams is just kind of okay with 4 shots a game occasionally. And it's like, I want you to do something more. You're a great catch and shoot 3-point shooter, for sure. But we've been waiting for the mini Kawhi that was advertised to be mini Kawhi. Yeah. And he can move like Kawhi. I'll be honest with you. He moves like him, don't have the dog like Kawhi. Obviously not the generational defender that Kawhi was at his prime. But like every once in a while I'm watching, I squint a little bit and I'm like, there he is. Yep, there he is.
When he makes one of those mid-range pull-ups, it's like, oh man, it's right there.
And then he was working out with DeMar DeRozan at 5 a.m. last offseason. I'm like, yes, this is the year.
That's so early. You don't do that unless you're getting better. I am actually optimistic about this trade. Like this is the one thing where I'm like, okay, Arturas, you kind of cooked on that one. Just because I think based on where the salaries are in the league right now, like what's the highest end guys are making like $65 million now or something. So Patrick Williams has durability issues, but at the end of the day, he is a 40% 3-point shooter, and he is one of the best on-ball defenders in the league, like by all the dweeb metrics and stuff like that. He's a big wing, which is just like hard to find naturally. So I think those combination of factors. For $18 million a year, I think that's a pretty good rate. Like it could end up being a steal for us if he ever does anything. But like you said, he's our new Tony Snell. He's got confidence issues. It's like he looks like Kawhi, but he's like, I don't know if I can be Kawhi. But yeah, I think I saw a guy on Twitter saying like he shouldn't, like, comparing it to the Jose Alvarado contract. He's like, Jose Alvarado's better than Patrick Williams. This is crazy. But it's just like, and maybe he like, maybe he is, but just by pure value wise, I think we couldn't go out and get this same type of guy for a lesser rate, and it would probably be much more expensive. So I think this is a good contract.
I wonder what his value would have been if they let him test restricted free agency. Like, because the Pistons had a lot of money. The Pistons, and it was rumored that OKC might have been interested. It doesn't make sense.
Oh,
for OKC.
yeah.
But like, I wonder what those teams would have offered him. It would have been less than this 18 million. It would have been more. Like, maybe they were smart. Maybe Detroit was gonna go throw him $25 million annually, and then we got in early and got him locked up. Either way, I really do like Patrick Williams. It's just like, can we stay on the court?
He's just not our savior.
He's not our savior like we thought he would be. I mean, we jumped up in that draft, and I'm like, yes, we got it. It happened, man. This is our guy. And
God, he's so young.
somehow he's
God,
still not the
his
worst
eyes are
top 5
huge.
pick in that draft, though. So that's
who is I forget off the top of my head.
the Wiseman draft.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's so nasty.
it's like
Could be worse.
Yeah.
At least we didn't fumble Steph Curry's prime.
Right.
Yeah, you're looking at like the 27 Zach LaVine year, 50, 40, 90
Oh,
club.
it
And
was
you're
so-
like, oh, that's all we messed up, guys. We're not fucking up the like, yeah. That's like them dropping the ball on Michael Jordan, dude. That's crazy. All right. So yeah. I don't hate the Patrick Williams contract. I haven't given it like that much thought because again, I'm not emotionally invested in what mini Kawhi becomes. I don't have those like adrenaline spikes when the mid ranges go in. I'm just like, oh, that could be something, I guess. But yeah, 5 for 90 versus what is it, like 38 for 3 for Okoro. So that's like a difference of like 4 or 5 mil. Yeah, that's a little tough to stomach. And I kind of maintain that might be a little bit underpay for Okoro as well. Like I don't think that's the absolute ceiling of what any team in the league would give him. But he probably wanted to remain in Cleveland and like has a lot of faith in the people who drafted him and what they're building and shit. But yeah, it's fine. It's in an off season where all of this other shit went down. It's far from like the most offensive thing that happened or was said. So yeah, I'm cool with it. All right, the third question that we got for you is: what are your expectations for the upcoming NBA season? What would a disappointing season look like versus a surprisingly nice one? How are you feeling on this front?
I think the most disappointing thing that can happen with the Bulls this year is that they're not a fast-paced team.
Okay.
You think about who they acquired in Josh Giddey. You think about Lonzo being healthy to some capacity, minutes restriction, no back-to-backs, whatever. Kobe White, Zach LaVine. Like, this team, for the last couple of years, were geared for a DeMar DeRozan style of basketball, which had its ceiling, obviously. We were a slow team. This year, we're young, other than Vooch being slow-footed and everything. Like, they have the athletes to go. I don't care if we lose every game. Like, I kind of want that in a way.
Yeah.
But if we don't end up being a fast team, I think that's the failure here. Like, Billy Donovan, say what you want about him as a coach, I do believe he's done a pretty decent job in his stops of adjusting to what the talent is on the roster. And that's one of the things they kind of talked about in media day, that they want to play faster. And I saw the stat that was like the Bulls haven't had a top 10 pace since like 2008 or something, which is kind of crazy to really think about because we did have Derrick Rose, but then again, it's Tom Thibodeau. So it's like,
Slow down.
And
was the
he
fast-
didn't like playing fast. Remember when Hoiberg came and he's like, we want to play faster. And Derrick Rose was like, I do not want to play faster. I want to bring it up.
Right. Yeah. So I just want them to play with some level of pace, man. If that means we turn the ball over a million times, I'll be mad about it in real time, obviously. But I think that it's probably the best way to maximize the talent that's on the roster. Also, I don't really have, like, I think the over-under is like 27.5 or something right now.
For wins?
I don't know if that's, yeah. I don't know how I feel about that number. Like I'm not looking at the season of wins and losses.
Yeah.
Don't make the playoffs. Everything else is okay. Just don't make the playoffs. Keep that pick. So maybe that's the disappointing season. Making the playoffs, as weird as it sounds, would be a disappointing. Even making the play-in my mind will be disappointing. Because that means even if we lose, we have the 11th pick in this year's draft. I want an opportunity to have a 7% chance at Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
You know, I want a 14% chance, lose every game at Cooper Flag. That 1 point something percent, we did that already. Shout out to Derrick Rose, man. It's not happening again.
Yeah.
So let's go get the highest odds imaginable.
Yeah, that's an insightful. I like that. I like that. When we get an answer that strays away from wins and losses, I feel like that's the most fun answer to those
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, and I feel like fast pace. I don't know. You mentioned Vooch. You mentioned slow footed. I'm not super locked into like how the front office or the coaching staff feels about him being locked into the starting lineup or anything. If they're running as fast as they can and they don't care about losing games and they just want to see like what the ceiling of the young talent that they've accrued is, to me that makes more sense to start Jalen Smith. Do you think that is on the table in any capacity this year?
I don't think so. Jalen Smith in his interview was like, the reason I came to Chicago is because they're a young team, good city, and there's a lot of opportunity here. It was like, oh yeah, you think you could take that spot, don't you? You think you could take that spot, but I don't think it's realistic. I think that they've continuously said that like Vooch is one of the leaders of the locker room, and I just don't think he loses his spot regardless if Jalen Smith is a better player 12, 20 games into the season. But I would love to see it personally.
Yeah.
Like Jalen Smith coming out of college was one of my favorite prospects. Obviously he ain't been as amazing as I thought he could have been, but like he's like a real quality guy, can shoot the ball. Would love to see him better positionally when it comes to defense as that 5-man. But other than that, like I really enjoyed his pickup, and I would like to see him start if we can somehow send Vucevic to like Memphis if Zach Edey sucks.
Nice. Oh, dude, the heist of this, getting Vucevic off this team. I mean, like that would be the most shocking thing I could imagine for this upcoming season. Because him and Nurkic, for whatever reason, I like personally don't like them. Like I watch him play, and I'm like, dude, this is an affront to like me, to fans. This is awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm of the idea that he will remain on the team all year, and it stinks because
Yeah.
I mean, I think Smith, even if you don't want to say like he will be better or like that won't happen, it's at least more entertaining, and you're learning more. You're learning. You don't really learn anything from like 60 games of I don't know, 17-10 or whatever Vucevic was putting up. Pablo, do you have any Jalen Smith thoughts or any thoughts in general down there, really?
I would love if he ended up like emerging as the starter, but I probably just won't bet on it or won't rely on it because he's one of those guys where the numbers are crazy, but then when you watch him, it's like, oh, I don't know if this quite matches up, and then he's like not even getting on the court in the playoffs. And Pacers fans, like our friend Ben Pfeiffer, he's like, I hate this guy. This guy is the worst. So I don't know how functional of a big man he really is, but if he ended up emerging, that'd be cool, but it's not really anything I'm counting on.
Yeah.
It's based to go, and then he's not even getting on the court in the playoffs for Indiana, and that's like a big concern for Chicago. Like they're worried about that, so I don't think he's cracking the rotation at all.
He won't be able to help us beat the Celtics this year. Oh man,
the rivalry continues, baby. Yeah. All right, so disappointing season would just be slow, and that's also like boring too. Like a bad team that's fast, and it's like, okay, I'm locking in for 130 to 125 loss tonight. That's
the Wizards that year when Bertans was cooking.
Oh my god, the Wizards. The Hawks weren't like, because the Hawks were nearly 500 last year, right? So like I wouldn't classify them in like the real bad fast paced teams throughout history, but it did kind of have that vibe where it's like if you're looking for something to watch that you just know is going to be buckets the whole time.
Yeah.
Atlanta had that, and I think that's a reasonable thing for Chicago to want to do with all of the additions that they made, specifically Giddey. Like surprisingly nice at that point. Is it just like great odds? I guess you said not wins and losses, so what like player development does would be surprisingly nice for you, I suppose?
Like I mentioned earlier, we have a plethora of guards here. All of them are super young. So like, I mean, Kobe White was my favorite Bull to watch since, 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. 2012. Well, maybe I shouldn't be putting that much pressure on myself. He was a really fun
There
player
you
to
go.
watch
Don't
last season.
quantify it. Yeah.
And it is kind of weird to see him transition from point guard last year of his career year, the back to being an off guard. So I would want to see him continue to take that step forward. Would love to see, like we mentioned, Patrick Williams be more aggressive. Like there are small wins across the team, like that I would love to see. Even a guy like Dalen Terry, who's
Ooh.
maybe the 10th man in the rotation, he had flashes last year as a point forward in a way. Love to see him get a little bit more burn and progress as a player. Julian Phillips was this crazy bouncy athlete coming out of college, hasn't really been able to crack the rotation. So there are some intriguing young players that, like, if two of them end up having career years or just looking a lot better, then I'm happy about that.
Right on. Yeah, that's about what I expected to hear on that front. Okay, I guess that leads into the oh wait, we have the midseason trade stuff to talk about. So my next
Ooh, yeah.
question is there a midseason trade that you want or expect the Bulls to make? We already touched on if LaVine could move, it'd be great. But
Right.
yeah, like what do you think on those fronts?
That's really just it. Those two dudes, Levine and Vucevic. Um, I'm just assuming that they're going to be here to stay because it's hard to find a market for them. Even guys like Torrey Craig being back on the team is a bit weird to me. Like, why is he
Yeah.
here? So I was expecting some team that's good to be interested. I guess not. So let's say anybody over the age of 26 years old can get traded this season, and I'll be happy about it.
Okay, right on. Yeah, it's interesting to me too. Uh, that like nobody took a swing on Torrey Craig because
Yeah.
now me Nuggets
Well, you know who did?
who
Megan the Stallion.
oh yeah, hey, good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah.
He's up.
Yeah.
He's
He's
up.
up.
He's a legend. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, like Nuggets fan. The PJ Tucker news dropped yesterday, and like Nuggets Twitter is like, we need him. That's our guy. And I'm like, we couldn't. I don't have it in me to do like the Westbrook and PJ Tucker experiment.
No.
So
Yeah.
like Torrey Craig,
Is he 40 yet?
hey,
He's got to
he's
be
been
close.
40. He's moved like he's 40 for like 6 years at this point. But
Yeah, you don't want your team to be known as getting the guy 4 years too late. It's just don't do it. Don't do it.
yeah, it's nasty. I don't even like it's crazy. That's like such a crazy testament to where Vucevic and Levine are at. It's just like even like trying to adopt like stupid opposing GM makes ridiculously unbelievable trade. Like you have to venture into like just there's like 4 teams involved in this and a million picks and like
Mhm.
just to even get to like sometimes completing those deals. So I think they'll probably stay as well. Pablo, do you think any big moves on this front with Chicago?
I just want any kind of fire sale, Zach and Vooch. If we could get anything for Torrey Craig at the deadline, if we could get anything for Javon Carter, if Lonzo Ball looks salvageable at all in any way, I'm fine trading him 100% because it's too late for that version of the Bulls. So
Yeah.
if his knee is looking good and he has a cool highlight going around where he locks up Westbrook coming off the bench for Denver, I'm like, sell him now. Get it. Let's get a heavily protected first for this guy or something. I just want to bottom out completely. I'm fine getting any legitimate NBA player who's not young off this roster.
One more thought I just had, like it just came to me again. Are you guys concerned about like Io DeSunmu's role on this team? Because I feel like he is like legitimately really, really good. And I felt like last year was like a really straightforward spot for him in the rotation. And now Giddy comes in, he's getting the ball a ton. Kobe's moving off the ball. You still have Levine, you still have all these guards. I'm not worried about like he's going to completely fall out of the rotation or anything. But that's a guy that I would like to have seen continue develop on the same like progression path he was on. And now a wrench has kind of been thrown into all that with like the Giddy addition. Do you have any thoughts about that, Kenny?
Yeah, he averaged 17 post All-Star last year. And I don't know at this point of his career if he's actually a starting guard when it matters. So maybe that's their mindset. Josh Giddey, in theory, could be a starting guard when it matters the most. But I love Ayo Dosunmu as a player, man. So to see him have to fall behind Giddey again and then try to usher in Lonzo Ball, it's a lot. Like they just have way too many guards here, and Ayo's kind of going to be a casualty of it all. Luckily, he's on a contract that's he can just kind of sit around.
Mhm.
But like, I don't think the general public understands how solid Ayo Dosunmu was last year. Where like Bleacher Report articles are putting together trades of Pat Connaughton in 2 seconds for Ayo Dosunmu, and I'm like, bro, I'd rather him just not play for us than trade him
Yeah.
away for Pat Connaughton. Literally just sit in street clothes. Because I am worried about it. I'll just say that I am worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because yeah, it's just like in that weird spot in the rotation where last year he like earned it. He planted his flag and everything, and he was like, I'm here, and you guys should continue like trusting me to get better. And just like sliding everybody down one spot, it like pushes him over a line where it's like, there'll be nights where we get blown out anyways, but like we don't even get the developmental minutes for this guy, and like
Mhm.
that's just frustrating. Pablo, what do you think?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily counting on him taking like any more big steps forward or anything like that, but I just think he's a good player. And like, I honestly, I do think he's straight up better than Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey's going to be playing more than him, and it's just going to be his minutes are going to go down. So I think this is just worse for the team, and he's young, so like, why wouldn't like even though I want to bottom out and lose as much as possible, I don't want to stunt the young guy's development to do that. So it's just a bad situation for him.
Yeah, tragedy in the Windy City. All right, midseason move. All right, I guess that takes us mildly into the next question. Is there or which player on the roster are you most looking to see develop this season? Who are you looking forward to watching the most?
I'm just like new faces. Modest Buzelis is probably my guy.
Okay.
Um, just because in summer league he was so fearless, shot it so poorly. Oh my god, it was awful. But I loved every single second of it because he was there to like give me the ball. Like one game, I watched him take a pull-up 3-point shot, brick it,
Yeah.
get back on defense, get a stop, call for the ball to take that exact same shot again, and the result was a brick as well. But I'm like, yo, this is the player I've been wanting. We keep drafting guys that again okay with just chilling and not touching the ball. I want a selfish dude on the team, even if he is only 19 years old. And I think Modest Buzelis could be that guy. I think he's got a pretty high ceiling defensively. I don't know if he'll ever actualize that, but he moves very well for 6'10". He is a gambler, but I think most young players are. I'm 6'10", I can block every shot. That's kind of like his
Yeah.
mindset. But I'm so excited to see how many minutes he gets, obviously, on this team and what those minutes look like. The good thing for him is our wing rotation is awful because it is all
Yeah.
guards. So like he should get opportunity to play real minutes early. I'm not expecting him to be good though. I'm definitely not expecting him to be good, but I can't wait to watch him.
Pablo, what about you?
Yeah, same thing. Like this is the one guy who has spunk on our team, who's got young life. Kenny, how do you conceptualize like when you look ahead like 5 years? What kind of because you're a draft guy too, right? So when I was watching Buzelis, oh, you're not? I thought
No.
you were.
No.
Well, you at
Oh,
least have favorite
well,
prospects. That's a lot more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than
yeah.
I do in the draft. So
Okay,
of
yeah.
these three, yeah.
I usually know the players as they come into the draft and have a concept of who they are. Yeah, but I'm very far away from a draft guy, but I know at least a little
Okay.
bit.
Mhm. I see. Yeah. So with Buzelis, it's weird because there's a ton of different paths that he can go with as a player. Like he has the size, he dribbles pretty well for his size. He didn't shoot well in the G League this past year, but he shot really well 1 year in high school. So that's like, is he going to shoot? Is he not gonna? Is this a guy who just shoots threes and attacks closeouts? Is this a guy who hangs around the basket like we saw in the summer league? He was doing like crazy lobs. Is this a guy who's like, and then like you said, defensively is the main selling point, and I think the rim protection might be his best. Like the weak side rim protection might be his best defensive asset. But like I have trouble like picturing. I think there's a lot of good stuff going forward, but how are you counting on? Do you think he'll be like a 4, a 3? Do you believe in the shot? What's your vision board?
I would expect him to be more of a 3. I kind of see him like I don't want to say the best version of him because this is like not like a crazy ceiling, but I see a lot of what Franz Wagner turned into. This is our Franz Wagner. We finally got him after
Nice.
trading the pick away. But being a 6'10" guy with a good handle, at least decent playmaking vision. He's not a great passer, but he sees it. He just can't get it there a lot of the times. As we mentioned, the defense reminds me of what Franz Wagner has been doing over there in Orlando. He doesn't finish at the rim nearly as great as Franz, but I do think he's a better athlete than Franz. So that's where my head is always at when they drafted him, or when I was doing the research to try to figure out if he'll fall to us. And if he ends up being Franz, like let's say his ceiling is today's version of Franz, I'm so happy about that. I would be so excited for it.
What do you want the announcer to say when he walks out? Are you okay with from Chicago, or should he, and if they do from Hinsdale, is that lame?
It's
or should
very
they just
lame.
from the G League?
Are you
When he
from Chicago?
Yeah, I'm from the suburbs.
Which oh, I don't want to dox you. We could talk after.
Yeah, I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Yeah.
They traditionally will say from Chicago, but the good thing is I'm not expecting him to start, so we may never know.
Yeah.
He may be out of the league before he gets an opportunity to start. But I think I think his name is Tim Sinclair, is the announcer guy over there. Shout out to Tim. He will say from Chicago if he ever does start. How do I feel about it? Personally, I don't like it, but I'm not gonna write a letter to say they should say from Hinsdale, you know.
I think you should. I think that'd be really cool. That's not the city. Don't say that. Okay, yeah. Matas, that's a great answer. I do think when you talked about like you don't know whether or not he'll ever realize his defensive ceiling. I think if you're already 19 years old, you're describing him as like a psychopath. I think that's a good step forward for a defensive ceiling. It's just like, oh, this guy likes to bring it every night. And so that'll be cool. He is a great athlete. I had there was a moment where during the summer league, I was like, he's looking really good on here. And Pablo was like, don't check his shooting splits. And I never did. And so I only have all the cool dunks and everything. And yeah, I'm really excited about him. So yeah, it's just nice. As someone who like, I'm not a Wizards fan, but I live in DC and like I'm tangentially like I root for them and stuff.
Sorry to hear
yeah,
that.
no, well, that's what I'm saying is now there's
Caleb's still better than Jaden Daniels, just so you know.
there's more direction with the team. Like the post Beal era is just like a weight off the shoulders a little bit, as opposed to being like what the Kuzma, Porzingis, Beal big three is. That's what we're expecting something to happen with. Now there's direction, and it makes it easier. There's just like more options to root for in terms of like guys to take step forwards every year, as opposed to just like this cast of like okay role players around a top tier, a big three that has like no real ceiling to it. So yeah, I think it'll be more interesting than a Bulls season has been in a while. The last few years for Chicago have turned out pretty much exactly how I thought they were going to when like the season kicked off and everything. I guess that takes us to our final question. Which team do you think will win the NBA title? We're running a tally of everyone who comes on here, and I'll give it to you after you give us your answer.
So, okay, this is where my head is at, right?
All right.
In order to go back to back in the NBA, historically, you need not just a top 10 player actively, you kind of need a top 10 player of all time. If you think about it, ish. I'm gonna put the ish around it, like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, top 10 ish players. That's the caveat. The 80 was that 87, 89?
It's around whatever. There. Yeah, late 80s.
But that's the only caveat. You got MJ, you got Kobe, you got Shaq. Now those dudes notoriously did 3, but like you need multiple. And I don't think Jason Tatum's gonna end up as a top 10 player of all time, personally. So it's up in the air, man. I feel like every year I do give a cop out, right? Going into last year, I was like, oh, the Nuggets, man, they're gonna do it again. Come on, man, best player in the world. And it just didn't happen, as you know.
That was really sad. Yeah, keep going. Sorry, but that was tough.
Wait, weren't they in Game 7 up 20?
At home, the Mile High City, you know?
Oh man. So I've broken it down to a couple different teams. Obviously the Celtics are still top. I don't know if that's my official pick. I'm talking through it in real time with y'all right now. So we have them in the Eastern Conference. We have like, in my mind, if you have one of the 3 best players in the world, you have a chance. I don't love the Bucks roster, but Giannis is on the roster. Yeah. And the last time we saw him be healthy in the playoffs, believe it or not, they won games. So if we can get him healthy in the playoffs again, I think they have a chance. I'm a little hesitant on Philly just because this is the first year of them playing together, even though they have the talent to make it happen. And Joel Embiid is 25 pounds lighter.
Ooh, he's trim.
Out west, My teams are the Jokic and the Nuggets, even though I don't really love their offseason too much. The Dallas Mavericks, I think I have to put them in after their run this year. And OKC. And if I'm thinking that the Celtics are not going back to back because Jason Tatum's not one of the 10 best players of all time, I think I kind of default to the Thunder. And I think that might be a lot of people's answer. Best offseason, if you ask me. Superstar player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, dominant defensive big. J-Dub was one of the best jump shooters in the history of basketball last season. And they have Alex Caruso now. I mean, I still don't feel great about it saying it aloud, but I'm going to officially say OKC Thunder.
Oh, beautiful. Nice. I love that. All right. I penciled you in. I wrote down Kenny in the Boston tab, but now I'm moving it.
It was soon.
I know, that's not my fault. Yeah. So Boston is leading right now, 6. But you have brought the OKC tally up to 4, and then we have 1 Bucks pick as well. So Boston is me and Pablo, Jackson Frank from the Philly episode, slightly biased from the Dallas episode, Carson from Nerd Sesh, and then Kofi. The Thunder, we have Isaac from the Deep 3, Ben Pfeiffer from the Pacers episode, Matthew Sponhauer, and now you. And then Joel Morant from Pick a Side. He did the Bucks. Yeah.
I love Joel, but he has to be different. He needs it. It's part of the brand. I like it. I
loved it.
That's a good group of guests, though. That's some pretty good guys.
We've had a great.
Kenny, before you lock it in, I want to make sure you did see Jonathan Isaac put on 30 pounds.
I did see that, yeah.
So if you want to if you didn't know and you want to throw in the Magic now's the chance to do it.
But I also watched the first 3 minutes of their preseason game, and Jalen Suggs had 2 turnovers.
Oh.
I can't rely on him right now. I'm sorry, can't do it. I have a framed Jalen Suggs jersey, right off camera here. Ask me
Football
why.
Or basketball?
Ask me why.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why I have a framed Jalen Suggs jersey. I mean, I remember where it came from, but why did I frame it is the question.
You framed it? They didn't send
I put it in the frame. They gave it to me in like a plastic. I did a brand deal where it's like, here's a bunch of signed jerseys you can buy. And Jalen Suggs was one of them. And it had to be 10 jerseys. I had 2 frames in this house. And one of the 2 frames that I used was for Jalen Suggs.
I'm going to track that down. I'm going to see what the other 9 were. I'm going to see if
Oh, there were some great. It was like Dennis Rodman, Dominique Wilkins, Chris Paul. It was some greats in there. And I was like,
wait, so these are all autographed?
Yeah.
That's pretty sick, dude. And you got Jalen Suggs in the frame. That's so funny.
I got Jalen Suggs.
Were you sleepwalking? Like, did you walk into the room one day and it was framed and you were like, I don't know what happened? Or
I think I saw him hit 4 threes in a game once. And I was like, yeah,
lock it
in.
In.
That's the guy.
Oh my God. Chris Paul's never doing that, man. This is ridiculous.
Not anymore. No.
Oh, man.
I actually got some really cool pieces. I'll show you after, but I got one piece that you'll like, Jack.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Well,
Peyton Watson signed.
Oh my God, Peyton Watson. Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, I guess that wraps it up for us. Do you have anything that you want to plug while you have the platform here?
No, I just appreciate you guys thinking about me when it comes to Bulls. And again, I apologize to having to reschedule 6 times. It felt like.
Oh my God. No, you're fine.
Here we are.
Yeah. Just doing our part to help out small creators, you know.
I appreciate that.
Guys, check out Kenny's page. He makes basketball videos. They're really good. So go check him out. He's a Bulls fan.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and Pau Gasol, you can take it away.
Lay down a list of what